Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bat Black Friday, right here at Mainframe Comic Con, at Word Balloon's YouTube channel, and a whole lot of other places, Comic Core, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitter. Great to see everybody. I hope you're enjoying the amazing conversations we're going to have all night talking about the history of the Batverse. And we've got some great creators to talk to. And I only see myself backstage, so I'm going to do my best here. But to start things off, I want to welcome another Chicagoan who did a great black and white story back in the day that I'm looking forward to talking about. It's Jill Thompson, everybody. Welcome to Jill.
Hey, how
There
you
she
doing?
is. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks. You.
Fantastic. Really excited to talk to you about your story. We also have one of the great Batman and Swamp Thing creators over the years who's done such incredible work. Batman Red Rain, where Dracula bites Batman. Almost ridiculous to say it, but it's such a tremendous story. And again, amazing stuff on Swamp Thing as well. The great Kelley Jones joining us right now. Welcome, Kelley. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It does sound ridiculous, Batman and Dracula. Yes, it did to me then, and it does still.
But it's a great story, man.
Yeah, it is. It defies explanation.
I now turn to a couple modern creators that are going to be doing stories for the new black and white series coming up. And let's start off with a guy who had a great story with Matt Fraction in Detective 1027. It's Chip Zdarsky, everybody, from Canada. Welcome, Chip.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, man.
Pleasure's mine.
As always. And not last but certainly not least, a guy that's been doing a lot of great recent work. He just is wrapping up an epic run on The Flash, but also has done great stuff with Batman and Superman, and looking forward to his black and white story. It's Josh Williamson, everybody. Good to see you, Josh.
Hello. Hey, good to see everybody.
Yay.
Fantastic. Now, Tim Seeley may or may not be joining us. We'll see what happens.
He
But
swore he would.
He's got a toddler. Well, Kel, you'll do the heavy lifting if necessary.
I will. I'll just say how I had to really cover for him.
Now,
Great all.
the black and white series is coming back in December, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Jill, you had a great, unique, the wonderful conceit, I think, of the entire black and white series since it started as a Gotham Knights backup back in the day. Was okay? You got, I don't know, 8 pages. Am I right, Jill? Was it like only 8 pages for your story?
I don't remember, like 6, 8, something like that.
But they were just little flavors of, not only Batman as a character, but other characters as well. But yours is incredible, and I'm hoping that our director will show a great page that I wanted represented. There it is, and it was almost. It's funny you mentioned when you were telling me about the story, and I'd forgotten because I bought this issue. It was like Time Out Chicago,
Yeah,
and
but it was Time Out Gotham.
yeah, Time Out Gotham, basically, or almost like Zagat's, like almost a travel guide of like the hot spots to hit in Gotham City. So tell us about it.
Well, I really love the Batman universe, or all the DC comic superhero universes. But what I've really appreciated about things that I've been able to do is just kind of my take on something that has absolutely nothing to do with the regular continuity, but just using the characters. So one of the things I like to think about is if you live in a city where there are superheroes, or there's a superhero like Batman, and Gotham City is such an iconic, great, dark city that I'm not sure. I know it's supposed to be New Yorky, but it's New York. But I think of it as a lot of Chicago, even before the movies. And I think of it in a time period, like it's like all the architecture and everything is stuck in like 1930. That's my preferred Gotham City, but you would have modern contrivances. So I thought, what are the places, like if superheroes were your regular, everyday reality, it would affect your city, it would affect the places that you go. And I wanted to reflect that in the whole Gotham timeout, where it would be kind of bat-centric. And like one of the things was to go to the conservatory, which is not open right now, but will be reopening soon because of the recent, fight between Poison Ivy and Batman, which is the only time I actually drew Batman in the entire thing. So I had, improv theater that was, a comedian that was trying to do stand up based on the Joker. And my favorite one was where Commissioner Gordon's favorite diner is called Cop Shop. And it's a diner that actually wanted to exist because everything would be like jail and prison themed. So when you go in, you wait in a cell, and then it served like coffee and donuts was the best thing that it served. And you got it was one of those fun theme restaurants where you'd go in and they would take your picture with your party as you came in, and you all would have like prisoner numbers, and then you would wait in a cell before they took you in where you could eat. So and then I wrote text for all of it as well.
Yeah.
So things based on, and it also touched on stuff that the Wayne Foundation would have a hand in, rebuilding this, or the billionaire Bruce Wayne was cited at their art institute or their Met Gala or whatever it was.
Sure.
So, like a society page and a cultural magazine in Gotham City.
I loved the diner because I live right by. It's Chief. It's not Chief O'Hara. It's a fire department.
You mean Chief O'Neill's?
Say it again, Jill.
You live by Chief O'Neill's?
I do live by Chief O'Neill's. And exactly, it's totally fire department themed. They've got great, unbelievable artifacts from fire departments from the turn of the century, 1900, and great old photos and old uniforms and stuff. And yeah, man, especially when I moved here, I immediately thought of your story because I just love that shot of Jim Gordon with the coffee cup in his hand, just chilling out and happy and stuff. It's great. And also your conservatory reminded me of Garfield Park, and of course Lincoln Park too.
It was Garfield Park Conservatory.
Was it There you go. So yeah, no, I get it. Very Chicago, and it was pretty cool. And I'm always happy that even though it's called Gotham, that you can't help it. Chicago is that kind of city just as much as New York is. It's
like a mix of all the big cities because it has so much. It has so much that major cities on coasts or even we're on the lake share in common.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why obviously it works. But it's technically, and one of my favorite depictions ever of Gotham City and Metropolis was in the Steve Rude and Dave Gibbons World's Finest, where the Gotham City was dark and gritty and a place where you could get mugged all the time, and then Metropolis looked like, to me, it was like what I thought of Toronto the first time I was there.
Funny.
It's so clean. The subway doesn't smell like pee,
Chip, can you attest to that as far as Toronto?
Yeah, I was out of town that weekend, so it didn't smell like pee.
Kel, remind me of your black and white story, and shame on me, I didn't grab an image for it. Because didn't you do one in the past as well?
Not me.
Oh,
No.
I thought you had.
No. Every time they had called me, I was involved in something with Batman anyway. So I was always pretty busy. And so they got a hold of me a few months ago and said that they were starting it up again, and would I do one in the first issue of this new incarnation. And at that point, because they'd asked me about 4 or 5 times, and every time I was in the middle of a deadline thing. So this one, I actually, because they asked it with enough time, I was able to do it. And that's the one that Ted wrote.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've just texted Tim again. We'll see if he can join us. But in the meantime, okay. I don't know what you can tell us about your story.
Well, it's fairly good. It actually, I didn't have to carry him after all. Tim, no, he wrote a terrific ghost story with Batman. And he had Zatanna in it and the Demon in it. And obviously, he wanted my take on Gotham. And he might, I don't know if he'd heard, I'd always gone around DC saying that I'd made Gotham kind of the main character for me when I was doing it. And because I always saw it as, and he let me do this, I'd always seen it, Gotham is like Shirley Jackson's Hill House. It's a town that was born bad. And the anomaly is anything good ever happens. And that was Thomas Wayne and then Bruce Wayne, and all those things were incorporated. And I said, normal people, there are no normal people there, and that's why that's the anomaly. So it just gives me a chance to do, and kind of like Jill, I see it as a 30s or 40s town, but I don't mind having a absolute modern technology next to a hook and ladder phone.
Same.
Yeah, I just whatever works for the moment is going to work, because if you have a character without superpowers, you can have a city that has no logic whatsoever to it. You can get logic from all the other books. I don't come to Batman for that, So I think it's helpful to people wanting to write. I mean, I had a whole thing in my head of what Gotham was that I never told DC. I saw him, Batman, as a villain, that people would think he's a villain. Why would they know he's a good guy? He's just the one they never catch. And he's so bad, they do a signal in the sky to warn everyone to get the hell inside because they can't, So
That's
that
great.
was my take. That was always my take was, and if you saw him fighting a bad dude, it was over territory. That's the only reason it could be. But he was the only guy who never went to Arkham,
That's fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I just talked to Matt Wagner, and he made the same point that you and Jill did in terms of that the characters always work best in the era in which they were created. Yeah. And his most blatant example is if you try to do a modern day Zorro, I suppose you'd have to put him on a motorcycle.
Well, Matt's just a film noir nut, and that's why he's wonderful with that stuff. And one of the things I always liked that he did was he was unrepentantly going to keep him in that. He didn't care where we were or what anyone thought. That's how it looked. And the ends justified the means. So I quietly did it. Matt bravely screamed it at him, but Matt's always a much more courageous person than I am.
Understood. Guys, Josh and Chip, I'm looking forward to seeing your black and white stuff, but you both have had recent runs with Batman. Josh, you just wrapped up your and forgive me because sometimes it's called Batman Superman, sometimes it's called Superman Batman. Batman Superman for your run, correct?
Yeah, because they wanted to sell more, so Batman Superman.
We've got a page from your last issue with the composite. The composite Superman Batman, which I love. First of all, I love the Silver Age version of this character, but Len Wein about 10 years ago in an annual did a great new version of the character as well, and I like what you did. But tell me, I mean, again, when you started that series, that was, Batman Who Laughs was the chief villain, and that whole dynamic. And I know that's like Scott's invention, Scott Snyder, but really, it's interesting beyond the obvious scary look of him, but the fact that this is a version of Bruce Wayne that knows everything about Bruce Wayne, and that how do you handle a Batman with no morals and is psychotic that way?
Well, with that character in particular, Scott and Greg put a lot of work into him, and so you kind of follow their lead with it. I've written horror books before, like I wrote Nailbiter, and I sort of just put my head in that space of that, like the horror version of that character. But it added an interesting dynamic to the Batman and Superman relationship, having him be the villain, because like you said, he is Bruce, and so having him there, because it's like all the horrible things that Batman has ever thought or considered about Superman, having the Batman Who Laughs there allows him to sort of, it allows him to kind of be, how do I put this, like as mean as he wants to be about Superman to Superman, but also kind of like to make Superman doubt how Batman feels about him, and kind of that dynamic. It gave kind of a fun, point of view to their relationship and how they are with each other. So yeah, it was a lot of fun writing him, and then we moved on from him to different villains, and getting to do Closet Superman was a lot of fun. I've always liked that character, and so getting to do a new version of that, just kind of playing around with some stuff that we had seeded in the book since the Batman Who Laughs stuff. It was a lot of fun, and Max Rainier drew that issue, and it's been pretty great. It's been fun. Issue 15 is actually my last issue, the one that comes out in December before I move on to other stuff. But yeah, it's coming soon, and it's been fun working on that book. I like writing those characters.
No, I'm looking forward to it. That's great. What can you tell us about your black and white story?
My Batman black and white story was a lot of fun. I've always been kind of obsessed with this, like there are so many bats in Gotham, and so I really wanted to do a story from a bat's perspective in Gotham. Kind of like not like a day in the life of a bat, but like the night in the life of a bat, right? And what happens is that there is this case, a bat gets killed, and it's the only clue to a bigger mystery. But there's no captions in it. But basically, this bat is like upset that bats are getting killed, and it starts trying to figure out why the bats are getting killed. But it's sort of watching Batman as this case is going on, so you get to kind of see a Batman case through the eyes of this bat, and then you get to kind of see this bat's like journey through the city. And yeah, it's Riley Rossmo drew it. Him and I've worked together on a couple things in the past, and I'd actually been wanting to do this story for a long time and kept pitching it to them as like a one shot or just something I want to do, just the night in the life of a bat in Gotham, just have fun with that for a little bit. And then they came and they were like, well, can you do it in 8 pages? And I was like, I don't know, 8 pages, that's so tight. I don't know, I think I can. And they were like, well, it'll be Batman black and white. And I was like, all right, yeah, I can do it in 8 pages. Sure, yeah, we can make that happen. And I got to work with Riley on it. So yeah, that's my story. It's about a bat, just POV, a bat in Gotham for a night.
Well, honestly, this is what I love about the series. And also, leading into Chip, what I loved about Detective 1027, is that, again, with limited real estate, you guys are able to tell these really dense stories. Jill, you certainly did it with your black and white story. And I really think, especially now in the Maxi series, and every story arc needs to be 5 issues. I mean, to just get a good one-and-done 20-page story is tough enough, but to do it in 8 pages, and, back in the day, Cal and I know, we grew up reading this stuff. I mean, that was kind of just normal standard operating procedures with a lot of anthologies that were out there and stuff. So, Chip, tell me, first let's talk about the Detective 1027 story. There's a good page from it right there. And revolving around Batman's birthday.
Yeah, I mean, I did it with Matt Fraction.
Heard of him?
Yeah, heard of him. And obviously, we've worked together for years on Sex Criminals, and DC approached us about doing this together. And I shouldn't be drawing a Batman story based on what I normally draw. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So we couldn't really pass it up. And, the stuff we've done together before has been, pretty jokey and sexy, dare I say it. And I talked to Matt about it when we got the gig, and I was like, let's just go all in on Batman. Like, everything we've wanted to do with Batman, let's do it all in like the 10 pages or whatever. And so Matt came up with an amazing script. It just kind of took place all throughout Batman's life at different eras. So I could kind of like draw like that year 1 Batman, the Neil Adams kind of 70s Batman, a bit of a Dark Knight Batman, and just kind of go to town on it, which was super, super fun. And because it's the only chance I'd ever get to draw the character, I think we figured we might as well just put everything into it that we could. So yeah, it was a ton of fun, but intimidating, especially being in that particular issue, because I knew it was going to be kind of filled with legends, and here we are, known for our joke sex books, insinuating ourselves into the Batman universe.
But Chip, I give you credit, man, because truly, you've gone from us knowing you from the artist on Sex Criminals to a very accomplished writer. Your Daredevil run speaks for itself. I mean, Howard the Duck, Pishaw, I know, yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. But truly, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to be doing on this Batman Black and White. So, who's your collaborator, and what can you tell us about your upcoming story?
Well, first of all, let me just say that everyone describing their Batman Black and White stories makes me highly embarrassed of mine, which is quite straightforward. I was paired up with Nick Bradshaw, who, if you're familiar with his work, he's super detailed superhero stuff, really, really cool and kinetic. So that kind of dictated the kind of story I wanted to tell. I wanted something that could kind of play to his strength for detail and kind of bigger than life superhero stuff. So instead of, I think naturally as a writer, I'd probably move towards kind of like the darker detective tale, but with this we just kind of went big and wild. It's a Batman Poison Ivy story,
Great.
And I feel like I may have cursed Nick by making it that, because he had to draw every single leaf. Like he's just that kind of artist. He's just going to draw every vine and every leaf. And he just kind of disappeared for a few months. We're just like, are we ever going to see this? And then it just showed up, and it was like, just blinded you with the amount of effort he put into it. So yeah, it was a ton of fun, and very much like me drawing Batman. This is probably my only shot to write Batman. So putting dialogue in his mouth, I'm just like, well, that's a nice little bucket list thing. I like that.
That's awesome. Jill, who was your editor when you wrote your story?
Oh, why are you asking me things like this?
Why? Because it's it's a test. You know that.
And I have a big fail on this test because I don't remember who my editor was at the time.
It might, because I was trying to think if it was because I know the series of black and white stories.
It was a long time ago that I did this.
Forgive me. I know, buddy.
10 years ago. So because I was at a different, I'm trying to remember because I was at a studio I shared with Tony Akins. So I was like, okay, what other things did I work on? Okay, so I had been working on Death at Death's Door and Little Emma's Storybook. Okay, so then I was working on Batman thing. Who were
Was
the
it
editors
Shrek?
at that time?
Maybe
No.
Bob Schreck?
Well,
No.
Archie Goodwin did the
No,
the
I know it
original
wasn't
ones.
Archie.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. I didn't think it was Archie because Jill's in volume 3.
Okay, yeah. Andy Helfer?
Don't remember.
That's all right.
I don't even remember the editors.
I wrote things, finished it, sent it away.
And they obviously, they liked it. They were happy with what you did, obviously. So that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I was just interested in the possible other.
Very much.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. No, but honestly, I was just interested in whoever has been, editing the various black and whites over the years. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it did start with Archie. So no, you're absolutely right about that. But and just in general, bad editors that you've all worked with and stuff. So Kelly, what
Right?
who
That's bad.
say again, buddy?
You said bad or bad?
BAD, right?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
You said BAT, not BAD.
Yes, bat editors.
I thought
Indeed,
it was like,
of course.
wow.
Not bad editors. No.
Yeah, I heard bad
That's-
editors too, and I was like, all right, we're doing this. Like,
No, let's get
Yeah,
into
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Give me the worst editors you guys had. Absolutely. No. It's Bat Black Friday, not Bad Black Friday. Definitely. So no, yeah, I'm interested in the other Bat editors that you guys have all dealt with. Kelly, who was your primary Bat editor?
Archie Goodwin brought me in to do some inventory stuff. Just to see how I would do. He had seen Dead Man, and so he thought, "What would you do with Batman?" But my primary editor was Denny O'Neil, and that was at that point he was the one who kind of the stupid stuff I just said earlier. He would listen to that, and whether for whatever reason. He allowed that to go forward. He didn't mind that. In fact, he, to his credit, he let us be alone and not be connected up to everything. So we were just doing one shots and two parters and whatnot. And he was very entertained by that. Probably because it was easier to edit too. You didn't have to remember 15 other books and what you were doing, But primarily him, and then on to Mike Siglaine, who. A lot of people might not know in comics because he keeps a low profile, but he's now head of publishing at Lucasfilm and Disney and whatnot. And he might be the best editor I've ever had. He was phenomenal.
Mike's awesome.
Siglaine, I know, took over 52 after Steve Wacker left.
They had actually offered him twice to take over all of Batman.
Wow.
And because he knew it so well, but he was a guy. He was a real. I remember when I started working for him, he was a very quiet guy who knew everything, and very encouraging, and did not want you to be no homogeny in anything. Everybody be themselves. He used to say, "Don't look at anything. Just do what you would want to do." And but he was a very shrewd guy. He learned everything pretty much from Carlin. He would go after hours, and Carlin would teach him how to balloon place. Don't cover up an artist's good stuff, no one to speak, no one to shut up, that kind of stuff. And I worked with him for some time. I still work with him for Lucasfilm and stuff. We just did Haunted Mansion for Disney, a bunch of stuff for them. Very successful things. He has a very shrewd sense of things that his Star Wars work is phenomenal too. But a quiet behind the scenes guy. I mentioned 9 times out of 10, no one knows who he is. He's kind of like the specter of comic book editors, you know. Yeah. No one knows who he is. But like I said, when they offered it to him, I would scream when he would say no. I mean, if he ran Batman, I said, you'd be wonderful. And he says, oh, you know, I've got this thing. I want to stay in New York. I don't, you know. Then he moved out to San Francisco anyway to work for Lucasfilm. So who knows?
We're getting great questions from the viewers. And I wanted to say in here, Jill, this is one that you could talk about. The better YouTuber named Logan says, wait, Jill Thompson made a Batman story for this Batman Black and White before Death at Death's Door that's only being published now?
No, it was published a long time ago. You can find it if you look online somewhere.
It's in volume 3, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about the Death story. I don't know if you can hear me.
That story is also a very old thing that I did, a manga style Sandman book that had part of the Season of Mists in it, and then a story that I made up, mushed together to make a manga because manga was popular at that point, and they wanted to bring manga readers into the Vertigo world.
That's cool. I like it. Yeah. That's fantastic.
It was fun.
Excellent. Very cool. Sorry, guys. Maybe I'm slightly deaf. I'm trying to make sure I can hear you guys. Henry says, "Ooh, what's Chippy Boy up to in this?" Well, obviously he's got a Batman Black and White story coming up, but a nice little nod to your Stillwater story as well.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah. I talked to DC about future possible stuff as well, so that would be fun if I did more. I need the work, man. Come on.
I'll do.
And then here. Yeah. I understand. Anybody affected by Pencils Down these last 8 months? No, good.
Yeah. Got things on my desk that I was slowly working my way through. I mean,
cool.
Painted stuff that it's taking me longer. So I mean, not on a monthly book or anything, but I've got stuff that I'm working on, stuff that I'm gonna be working on.
Awesome.
Yeah. I kind of had the thing where I had a bunch of stuff paused, like potential future things, and then I panicked and I took on more work, and then all that stuff became unpaused, and now I'm screwed. Yeah. So I rescind my earlier request to get more work from DC.
Yeah.
Coffee and Heroes wanted to know, Chip, did you enjoy writing Batman more or drawing Batman more?
Writing is much easier. Much easier. I highly recommend every artist just write. You can get stuff done so quickly. The Batman drawing that story was a ton of pressure, and I didn't really feel like I was up to the task. So the pages took 2 to 3 times as long as a sex criminals page. I'm happy with the end result, but I recall how long it took, and I was like, oh man, like that's rough. I always forget how long it takes to draw a comic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have that as well, Jill and Kel? Like, where you have short-term emotional memory?
I have to say, where I learned to draw, really, even though I've been drawing a long time, was when they put me on Monthly Batman, which is a meat grinder.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned to draw. Yeah. Where they just said you have 24 days and you have to be in. And there's no do-overs, no, I'm going to spend no drawing every ivy on Poison Ivy.
No.
And that's where I really learned to draw and get to the point on every panel. Fear is a great motivator.
It really is.
Yeah, when you were around, it was tough because I would be around Archie or Denny and people who been through it, so there was no lies I could give, no bullshit.
No.
Like
You
we've
just
heard
had
them
to
all.
get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
it's that
Working
famous
on
thing of
something,
art
but-
is abandoned, not finished.
Yeah. Yeah, just get it done.
Yeah.
And
Working on
I wouldn't
something
look. In
else.
fact, I refused to look at my work during that period for about 15 years.
Wow.
I would just, if I could be happy with it that day. I didn't open the art boxes until they did I think Graffiti did a big book of my Batman stuff. And that's the first time I opened the art boxes.
Jill,
Wow.
go ahead. You were gonna
Yeah.
comment on that.
I was just going to agree with Kelly there, because when you're on a monthly book, it does help you cut to the chase
Mhm.
sometimes, because
Yeah.
you have to. Recently, I had to do that on something because, I mean, I've only added more jobs to my own repertoire. You know, it's like when I've collaborated with people, first I started out just penciling, then I was penciling and inking, then I wasn't satisfied with that. Then I started to shift over to the painting everything. So I was penciling and then painting stuff. And my style's gotten, I don't know, slower, I guess is the only way to describe
Yeah.
it. But then I write my own things too. And so I haven't, while I have learned to cut to the chase, when I've been asked to go back and just pencil and ink something, my brain doesn't think like that anymore. And it's sometimes harder for me to go back and just do black and white. That's
Yeah.
not a black and white painted thing where I have the luxury of tone. I can do something in black and white, like a monochrome painted thing, much quicker than I can pencil and ink it, and also way much quicker than I can paint it full color. So sometimes I really like to just work in black and white, or sepia, or a really dark indigo, just a value-based thing. That's when I can crank things out in a way that I thought I wouldn't be able to do anymore, and not in a bad way, but in a like, oh my god, I nailed that, and I did it fast. That's great, because I'm not fast at all, which is why I work on anything monthly, because
Sure.
I wouldn't be able to do it. So I like to create my own little, what do you think about Batman? Oh, I'm going to do this thing that's by itself. Or Wonder Woman, I'm going to do this. It has nothing to do with what's going on in the continuity, and just drop it down and see what happens afterwards.
But that's great. I mean, honestly, and then we look forward to it. And then truly everything you guys are saying about deadline art. Pardon me, Jill, finish. I apologize.
It's ideal. It's like my favorite thing to work. It's like, that's why you ask me who's editing what. It's like, I don't know. I work outside of the continuity of even editors, because I'm just off in the corner doing stuff, sending pages in, whatever, and then they have regular things that they're dealing with. So, I mean, my editors that I work with now are Daniel Shaven at Dark Horse, and then Jim Chadwick that I was working with at DC.
That's
and
cool.
I guess I would look to see if I could work with them again on the things that I'm working with now, because technically they're the only people I know that are still there that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we understand that. Absolutely.
Because I wouldn't really know that anybody that's new in there, however the company is working right now, that anyone would know who I am, because I'm not working on a monthly title.
I think they'd know who you are.
Yeah, I think that.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Coffee and Heroes has a nice comment for Josh. He wants a dream crossover. The Nail Biter comes to Gotham.
Oh, you know what? I'll try that. That's a good idea. I'll ask.
Now, there's precedent. I mean, Jeff Lemire did Black Hammer Justice League.
Yeah. I've never asked it before. I'll ask. That's a good idea.
Which has Batman in it.
What's that?
Yeah. It'll help sell it.
Yeah.
And
As long as it's
Wagner,
Batman.
Wagner got Batman Grendel going, so you never know.
I know. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's definitely something. That'd be cool to do.
So-
Batman can go to anybody else's universe and do something.
No question.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a vehicle for any story you want to tell easily. It's like
Oh. And then Jill, a nice compliment for Wonder Woman: The True American is perfect, Mr. DC.
Oh, thank you.
Coming from
Or the True
Mr.
Amazon, excuse me.
DC,
yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
And
He's the head of DC, Mr. DC.
Yeah, Mr. DC.
he must be very big in the company. The better YouTuber named Logan. I really liked Reverse Flash's tone of voice in the last couple issues of The Flash. It really had that "it was me, Barry" sort of feel.
Yeah, I was definitely going for that. Eobard is probably one of my favorite villains to write. He's a lot of fun. So yeah, I like writing Eobard. He's a good villain.
Excellent, very cool, Kelly. I'm so glad you mentioned your Dead Man story, because really one of those amazing things that you did back in the day, and such a different take on Dead Man. I mean, I love that classic design that Infantino came up with and Neil Adams did.
I do too. You just can't compete with it, though. You know what I mean? It's like everyone knew Neil, so I tried a day drawing it normal, and the next day I hated it, and thought all I thought of is I wish Neil was doing this. And so you just go a different direction. It was just take his name literally, and it kind of drew itself from that point. You know, they've asked me to do more. I know,
really,
but I don't know how that would fly now because he's bizarre and skeletal and completely non-heroic. I always saw him as a very gothic character. It might turn out good, but everybody dies in his, you know. I always had it. I used to tell whenever I did it, I said, well, the rule of thumb is if he possesses someone, it goes bad. That's, you know, because to me, that's pretty awful. You take someone and they don't know what's happened for 3 days and they're covered in blood when they come out of it, you know? So I said that you just, it's gotta end bad. Everything's got to end bad. But I appreciate that. That was a real door opener for me, because that was my waiting to be fired for doing this without asking permission. And every few days I would expect that call to come in. What the hell have you done? We got to start again. And, you know, but they went for it and let it probably because they didn't care about Dead Man.
Yeah, that helps.
Sure.
I think they just wanted to keep the copyright. In those days, you had to publish it so often to maintain it.
Yeah.
And it was, hey, it's in on time. Who cares? It's in an 8-page backup. On to the next. And but what happens, sometimes you're lucky. Fans may not recognize it or notice it, but peers do. And so I started to get a lot of reaction from Len Wein got a hold of me, and Karen Berger got a hold of me. A lot of people started getting a hold of me over it and thinking I was thinking great thoughts when I never was. It was just desperation and fear because Neil Adams that's the only person that anyone gave credit to on it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was gonna ask Kel, how did Red Rain come about, since this is a Batman thing, and what was the reaction to it, and how did it affect you? Like, because it seemed pretty huge.
It was Dead Man. Doug Mensch had liked Dead Man a lot, and we knew a mutual person, and he got a hold of me and he says, I have this idea for Batman. It was a message through someone that he would like to do Batman with me. And I never thought I would ever get a shot at Batman. So I thought, I'm going to get Batman and the Joker or the Penguin or something. And he called up or told me this silly thing about Batman and Dracula. And so having no foresight or ability to tell a good idea or not, I just said, well, send it to me and I'll see what I think, you know? And he sent it to me and I was all thinking, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? You know, the major guy, I got to get out of this. And I was thinking of all the lies I could think. Maybe I can fake an injury or something. And, but I read this piece and it was huge. The proposal, I still have it. It's like 25, 30, 40 pages. It just goes on and on.
Jeez.
And I read about the first 2 pages or so and I loved it. It was unbelievably interesting. So I called up and said yes before I finished. I didn't think it would do that well, honestly, not because I didn't believe in it, not because I didn't think it was coming out. It's that it was coming out the same weekend as Simon Bisley's Batman Judge Dredd.
Oh, okay.
I figured no one's going to care. And all I heard the whole time I was drawing is, boy, Kelly, you should see what Simon's doing, you know? And it was brilliant. I saw Simon's work and I thought, oh, man, okay. But when it came out, I will say I was the most shocked. I did see an advanced copy without the cover. And I thought Les Dorscheid's coloring was unbelievable. I hadn't seen any of it because you couldn't see them. They just would send it to you or not. And I could not believe Les Dorscheid's coloring. He had hand watercolored it. And what he had done with Steve Reed was so good that I was just great. I was going to tell him no anyway. But when I saw it, I thought, well, at least it looks good. And that'll be out because we'll be swamped by Simon. And the damn thing sold out. The day or two after it came out, they were all gone. And I had to go on a little signing thing locally, and they had no books. I would go there, and there was no books.
Wow.
No one had any books other than if you came in and you bought one.
Good for you.
And I to this day, I think I'm as shocked as that is the most shocking thing that ever happened. Maybe because for 9 months I thought nothing was going to happen. It was just I got Batman. I got to talk to Denny O'Neil on the phone, and all the little things that all these people. Doug Minch was terribly intimidating to me because he had written Master Kung Fu and everything I ever liked as a kid. He was on it. So, you know, there was a lot of dry heaving when they weren't looking because they were just these amazing people. But for it to do as well as it did, open door, it gave me Batman for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know? And it also gave me a lot of freedom because it wasn't written as bizarre as I drew it. I didn't know how to be straight with this stuff. I didn't know how to do it. I still don't really know how to do that. I'm always captured by boredom. I'm afraid of boredom. So when I get something, I go, well, how can I make this interesting today? Before you fire me, I'm always ready to be fired. And they just let it happen. And they thought I knew something after that. When I didn't know anything. They thought, I let them think that, and they just let it happen. And no one knew. Nobody knew. I think I to this day am convinced Denny approved it just because Doug so wanted it. And they were old friends going way, way back. And that's the only thing I can figure.
Unbelievable, man.
It's amazing.
And you came back to it, you know, there were subsequent stories. You didn't do them, Kelly?
No, I did. I did do it. I never thought it was always intended to never have a sequel. That's why it ended the way it did.
Sure.
And DC put a lot of pressure on Doug saying, well, it was like Charlton Heston with Planet of the Apes. You owe us one, so you got to do a sequel. And so I told Doug, well, it's got to be, don't embarrass me, man. Don't write something stupid or anything, because it has a lot to live up to. Luckily, he did very well on the sequels. He finally said no. I was always very pleased that they kept it in kind of their odd sideways canon at DC. They still do things with him. No one thought that. I mean, I was just glad that it was not embarrassing, because Batman and Dracula, that just sounded so silly then after Killing Joke and all these, you know, Arkham Asylum, all these serious heavy books, and then I get Batman and Dracula, and it sounded like Scooby-Doo. So
I would love to see your take on Scooby-Doo, frankly.
I would too. I would kill to do that. I got close. Archie had once said do scary Archie comics, and I got started with Len Wein, and but he passed, and so it went away.
When Hot Dog becomes Cujo in the Archieverse.
He said, do you want to do a really scary something like, and I had said something like Scooby-Doo or something. Yeah, I said, love doing that. It really is, when you pull off the mask, something worse, you know?
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Hey, Chip, I want to know, and I don't even know guys, Chip and Josh and Kelly, who is the current Batman Black and White editor?
It's Ben Abernathy.
Yeah.
It's Abernathy. Okay.
Yeah, it's Abernathy. Yeah, as you were saying, you said you thought they would know you, but come on, you know Ben knows you.
I know Ben. Yeah, I've worked with Ben on Capes mini.
Yes.
Which was one of my favorite things ever that I've written, and I have to say it was a heck of a lot easier than drawing everything that I asked Tony to do.
Don't you feel like a god when you do that?
Well, actually, it feels great. Except I've written for myself too, and I've really been pissed off at this writer. It was like, who wanted to draw who wrote all these horses? Oh wait, that's me. Never work with this writer again. Yes, too much of you.
Jill, am I right? Wasn't Capes you and Pfeiffer? Will Pfeiffer?
No, that was Finals.
Finals, of course. Who did Capes with you?
Tony Akins.
Oh, it was Tony. Excuse me. Okay.
Yeah. And it was again a situation. I mean, I always loved Cops, the TV show Cops, with the criminals. So I approached it from that situation, but there were little vignettes, so it was actually, and then some story ideas that I would love to actually take further. I made up while I did that, but the Batman character, it was just a one-page spread of, I was like, what would happen if there were superheroes in Chicago? I was like, well, cops wouldn't like it at all. And we know how cops do when they don't like stuff. So it's like I had, I told Tony, it's like it's a Batmobile looking car, and it's just pulled up right under the L downtown. So it's the overhead of like Wabash, where you've got the loop going all around downtown. So he's pulled off, and he's coming out of an alley with like two. So it's a Batman looking villain, and he's got, superhero. He's got two villains he's dragging out by their necks or their collars or whatever, and he's gonna take them in. But the Batmobile is covered with like 75 tickets because then he parked downtown, like up on the curb for more than 12 minutes and didn't feed the meter. Like every cop that walked by just like slapped a ticket on it. So he must have like $750 worth of tickets on there. And he's coming out and he's just going like, nope. You know, I like my superheroes with a good dose of humor in them, as well as being really dark. I like my superheroes very sarcastic and gritty, but also understanding the absurdity of themselves a little bit. So,
yeah, I get it. No, that's
human nature, how human nature plays into all of that kind of stuff.
That's isn't it sad that or whatever? I gotta confess, I was not a fan of the Cops TV show, but isn't it odd that today's society is what finally pushed Cops off the air, or at least as far as being made, new episodes being made.
I think they're making new ones.
Oh my goodness! I
had read it had come back. Yeah.
Wow. That was just kind of like pencils down. That was a very brief pause.
I mean, and it's not like the cops that, and I have friends who are police officers, so I'm not trying to diss cops. I just know that there's a certain, we know there are certain things that happen, right? From the very benign, like, crap, I got all these tickets, to very, very bad stuff. But, I mean, I don't think the new Cops TV show is going to be like, I mean, God, maybe it will be, and then that's going to set a precedent. Before, it was always like, they'd come in, they would try and deal with some drunk people or a domestic situation. And, you'd see the guy with the mullet and he's got, pants hanging down. He's got
no shirt,
hauled out, and someone's yelling at him. And the cops are keeping the peace. The show is like very like, thank you, cops, for coming. It's
100%.
Like cops in the middle of, bashing protesters or something.
Oh, no.
But what if it is? Maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be like new style cops.
I hope not. No, honestly, I wasn't embarrassed for the cops that were on the show. It was the shirtless mullet people.
That's the people I always felt bad with. It's like, okay, you turn your life around. 15 years later, you turn on the TV, and there you are, and you just like, you got
Albert,
that
it's
liquor.
Your show.
Yeah, you're vomiting and screaming, and they got you on the ground. I mean, but I changed my life,
But there would be like if there was a real Batman, he would have to. I mean, these are the type of criminals he would be running into most of the time until suddenly he falls into a, oh God, the Joker's out of jail again or something. Because if he's fighting crime, it's not just all Riddler, Penguin,
I always wanted to know why Gordon. I always wanted to know why Gordon, and I always used to say this when they'd have these bat things. I go, Gordon's this straight guy. He does everything you're supposed to do. He's the only honest cop there. Why does he allow Batman to break every constitutional right, your Fourth Amendment, everything, and he'll take these guys and throw them in jail? And I said, that would be interesting to me is Gordon. And they've always talked about this stuff, but how frustrating his life must be. And I didn't think it was, I remember saying, why don't we do one? And just, he has his secret file of, when Gotham police would arrest a regular guy, not the villains, the regular guy, that the regular guy would just go right back out and do it again. But when Batman brought a guy in, his recidivism rate was like less than 1%. Nobody went back out to do it. They went and got a job at the grocery store rather than be one of the Riddler's thugs, because this guy was so scary. And it really made Gordon and those guys, they would, because you still got to bring all the evidence to a judge, right? You still got to do all this stuff. So are they faking the evidence? Or are they just, changing, doing whatever they have to get it? I have police officer friends too. I said, what would you do? And they won't answer that question. But I said, and they're Batman fans.
Well, the lawyers in Gotham City must be horrible.
Yeah.
Or great, depending on what side you're on. Because, like, for the villains, they must be great because they're either getting them out, getting obviously mentally deranged people that are mass injurer, murderers, killers, rapists, whatever, thieves of every variety, just being let out constantly. And I'm sure, and that does happen, but it happens in a way that we never know about it. But this would be like if they got out and it was on the front page of every newspaper and then nothing got done all the time. I don't know how I would react to that all the time. It's like, if we knew, it's like Ted Bundy was just let out again. Oh, okay. Let's catch him, throw him back in there. Oh, we let him out again. Not that when he escaped, that was a big deal. But this would be just like, they're constantly getting out of Arkham Asylum. That's also not a very good institution.
Everyone should move out of Gotham, frankly.
Yeah.
Sounds horrible.
Understood. That's awesome. Sorry, this is me texting Tim, who is still confused by he's probably not going to make it, and that's okay. We're fine. I love where this conversation has gone. I think it's great, and by all means, guys, jump ball if you have other things to.
Just tell Tim I really, really had to carry his weight through all this.
There's no question.
Just like our story together, it was all me having to handle it.
He I guess could join the art panel, but I don't know how much he's drawn Batman, so I don't know if he will fit with Jason Fabok and David Finch.
Let me ask everybody a question,
please.
As far as, well, this is just an artist question. What's your favorite way to draw Batman? I like Batman like a Batman Year One style. Even though he's a billionaire, I tend to draw him because I like to think of the you must have a little something wrong with you to think that you can personally stop crime as your one dude kind of thing. And I like the stitched together like leather helmet where you can see the stitches and combat boots, something that looks like he made it before he had any money, but he's always had money. So, but I like that kind of version of him where it looks more homemade.
Yeah, I mean, getting
what they like to, how they like to draw him.
Yeah, getting to draw the different versions in that one story, like the Mazzucchelli clean version is just so fun to draw. I love it where the utility belts are actual big pockets. I think that's kind of the gold standard. I do like drawing a nice, hairy-chested, shirtless 70s Batman, though. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
I like a Dark Knight Batman because I feel he's like a chunky gargoyle dad bod of a Batman.
Absolutely.
Where like you don't want him to fall on you. You see him like Robin is swinging, Carrie Kelly's Robin is swinging around, but Batman, I always see him as like, he's up on top. Before he was always on top of the, buildings with his leg up doing what he did. And now it's like, he's kind of over it like this. And then he's just let himself drop like a stone, hits somebody. And he's like, I'm so pissed you made me, move my arm. And those guys go to jail and they never come back.
That's fantastic.
Batman's such an elastic character in terms of drawing, and it's because of like the different eras, like whether it's 30s, 40s, 50s, and then you got like Adam West, and like there've been so many versions even just in other media that you could tap into as an artist. There's no wrong way to draw Batman, which is great. Like the other characters, Superman, there's not a lot of options there, I don't think. but Batman, you can go all over the map with it.
I always just saw him as a shape. I didn't really think of the details on him. I figured I wanted mine to be less about his all the accoutrement on him as this. He didn't appear in daytime to me. He would be like the guy in a room with you for 10 minutes before you were even aware he was in the room with you. And his shadow, his silhouette, if he had to hit you, he kind of had failed. You know, his thing was, stop it. I know what you're doing. That it was very clipped. And so he was just this shape in your office while you were planning evil, or in the alley or wherever. And so I didn't really want to get into all the. That's why I always used to. Doug would write me into corners, and I would just come up with a device. You know, he had a Man-Bat did something once. He says he catches Man-Bat, and I said he just throws something. He has a Man-Bat catcher in his, something, a net. But I didn't want to get caught up in all that. I just thought he's a shape. He's an outline. He doesn't. You don't really see him too much.
Interesting.
Or you don't remember, or you don't want to see him. I always took it from fear. I didn't think of if I were Batman. I would think if I saw him, I would be terrified. It's something like that. So I would always go from that route. If it's fear, then let's do fear.
I used to copy your work a fair amount, Cal.
I apologize.
And the one thing I really loved about your Batman is that the cape was always like constantly shifting water.
Yeah.
Which I loved. Like it was like the cape was its own character.
He was always kind of static to me. And so I thought I got to make some movement happen while he's standing there threatening or something. Yeah. And I quit. I at that point, again, it's one of those things that just took a life of its own. I wish I would have thought of it beforehand, but it probably would have ruined it,
Yeah, of course.
It just sort of happened. And I appreciate that. That means a lot because it's one of those things that the things that have happened that have worked for me have been organic. No one said, let's do this. It just sort of happened. Nobody stopped it, or they were too busy to stop it, with because when I was doing Batman, all the other books were contained or connected, and we weren't. So they kind of just threw up their hands and said, do whatever you want. And finally, when they said, we're going to connect you up, we want you to do a last year. I said I would do one more year, and I thought we would, but then they said, but you have to be connected. Our last year was, if anyone remembers, we had a little guy who had a marionette, a little puppet guy, and you'd always see him in the backgrounds on a panel here or there every so often. And that was our setup for the last year. He was the guy who knew everything. He knew everything, but he had also made these things happen. If the Joker was doing something, he had manipulated the Joker as much and knew about everything. And that was what we were going to do as our final thing. Sadly, Mark Doyle was going to do that with us, but Mark is now gone.
Yeah.
But he had inquired about that. A lot of people had always asked, what is that little guy? I said he was there for a reason. And it was something Doug and I and John Beatty had discussed for a long time, that these things were not random that were happening. And then the final one, we would say who he was, why this was happening, and all that kind of stuff. But, DC wasn't impressed with that 25 years or 20 years ago. But luckily, a lot of the goofy people who were reading them, who got into comics, remembered that. So I remember Scott Snyder wanted to do something with that, and Jeff Johns remembered it, and everyone remember. And we never focused on it. We never said anything. We just showed this one little panel here or there.
Interesting.
So that was going to be the guy and then so the prior 3 years, there would be all these little things that happened would all be dealt with in the final year. And that was going to be our magnum opus, and then we would leave and never be seen again.
Now, if I make two things, one, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I do have a couple fan questions I want to get to, but I'll let people know Art of the Bat is starting right at the top of the hour, and that's Amy Dallin talking to Jason Fabok, who drew 3 Jokers, David Finch, who has had several runs on Batman, much like some of the panel here, and also the fact that Again, we've got more live panels throughout the night. But while we've got, and again, it's on a separate link. So go to mainframecomiccon.com or the other platforms, and you'll be able to jump on that panel. But if you are staying with us, I do want to acknowledge a couple things. The Schmo says Dave McKean and Kelly drew the scariest Batman. Beautiful work. And then also the better YouTuber named Logan had a Josh question that in Flash 761, there's a splash page of Wally West saying, "Find me, Barry." When does this occur in continuity? Flash forward?
Mm-hmm.
It takes place between the end of Flash Forward and Death Metal #1. It's in that zone there.
Okay.
When you're trapped in the Death Metal world, all this stuff is happening.
I love a classic continuity question.
Yeah. I know the Flash stuff. That stuff I have down pretty good.
Yeah.
So that I can answer.
Well, to wrap up, guys, I'm interested as we're talking about art and everything. Favorite bad artist, if we'll go around the horn.
Oh, that's tough.
Marshall
Yeah,
Rogers.
Kelly.
To me. Everything was around Marshall Rogers to me. I think for a guy who handled it a handful of times, he made me a Batman fan, a DC Comics fan, and a Batman fan. And I thought he was maybe the best I have ever seen at doing it. He could take the silly stuff and make it very. He's the first guy who did the Joker unbelievably good. And no, I still go back and marvel at his work. Gone too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And he and Englehart, it was a romance comic when they were doing it, which is
they did not
cool.
know each other. Englehart wrote him and moved to Spain. He never knew Marshall even got the scripts.
Wow.
And he only saw them when he got back.
And an unsung hero in their collaboration, and I love pointing this out because everybody hates Vinnie Coletta, but when they wanted to take them off the the art team off the book or the whole team, Vinnie Coletta stepped up and told DC management, "Let these guys finish their story. They're telling an amazing story."
Well, I think Terry Austin had told me, because I'm completely fanatical over this, and Terry Austin had told me it's the reason he went to go work at Marvel was he thought they were doing this incredible thing. Obviously they were. And Marshall didn't care. Marshall had no trouble with them upset with it because he knew what he got and he knew it was going to be around and last. And I was lucky. I met him as a kid, just having him sign the book. And I was there when he met. It was in Oakland. And I was there when he got to meet up with Steve Englehart. The first time they got together for the book. Englehart was selling his collection. He lived in the Bay Area. He was selling his comic book collection. And they were set up near each other. And it was a big moment. But Marshall didn't care. He was fine if they didn't like it. He knew it was good. I made the mistake once of saying how good it was at my first Batman thing. And, it was like still a verboten subject.
Wow.
But I just did say, they did what we're doing here. Who's your favorite? And they were all saying whatever. And I said, Marshall. Luckily, Denny was there and he had worked with him. And I said, well, then I'm going to stop this whole whatever we're doing. And I have to know how you did these stories with him. They were brilliant. But he is the guy.
That's awesome. Jill, have you thought of a Batman? Do you have a Batman artist that you like?
I like so many people. It's like hard to.
You can do a list. That's cool.
Pinpoint one. I mean, if I'm thinking about Batmans that I like the best, I would say David Mazzucchelli.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like Batman animated series. It was is always straight up there. So I guess you would say Bruce Timm then because of the exact look of that.
Yep.
And then Dark Knight. I mean, these are all huge iconic things, but I mean, I think Batman is a character that, so many people. Oh, Rob, would you like to be on TV? I mean, on the internet, come up. Where if you like the way someone draws Batman, that becomes, So sometimes it's like Steve Rude's Batman and World's Finest is one of my favorites because I love how he draws everything.
Yes.
And so Bruce Wayne was so smooth and suave and interesting. But Lee Bermejo's Batman, how can you go wrong with that?
Absolutely.
But Mike Mignola, Gotham with Gaslight, that is like, to me, one of my very favorite Batmans. So I don't know, the list goes on and on.
That's a great list. That was fantastic.
All good.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Norm Brayfogle. Like when I think about Batman, a lot of times I think about Norm.
Yeah, you just stole my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have
two
Batman.
I have two Norm.
So
I have two.
So I was just looking at the statues. I was like,
oh, that's awesome. I have two
Yeah,
commissioned Norm Brayfogle sketches. One of Batman and one of Superman on my walls.
Wow.
Yes, they're not behind me.
Norm is great.
Who'd you just say, Jill?
I was like, now I'm thinking about Paul Pope.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
It's all right, Jill. There's no wrong answer. This is good.
There are no wrong answers.
That's why the characters endured for 80 years. Absolutely.
And I love Vinny, and I'm a big fan of Vinny Coletta in general, so I'm okay with Vinny.
I much maligned, and yes, I know all the terrible stories in him erasing all the Kirby art.
You hand a guy 10 pages and say in 2 days it's got to be done. You get what you get.
Exactly.
That is on the penciler every time, or the editor who got it late to somebody. But you don't ask someone to do 10 pages in 2 days and complain. You get what you get.
Like most human beings, complicated guy. And then again, I'm not making apologies. It's like it's just too easy.
No, and I think he did romance comics before, right at the early, and I think they're as good at romance comics as I've seen. His good girl art is fabulous.
Drew a great Wonder Woman in the 70s. Drew an excellent Wonder Woman in the 70s.
Yes, he did, and I think his inking on Kirby's Thor is definitive. Yeah, I think those the Hercules Thor Goes to Hell thing is as good as comic art gets.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to be cognizant of, as an editor or someone. I know a lot of times everyone's like, here, there's 20 pages, finish that, right? Because we have to get it done. And it's whoever happens to be in the office. It's like, guess what? You're inking this thing, which sucks for the penciler because not everyone's style meshes together. And I think what you said about the Ron, stop breaking things. Thor, that's my cat. About inking Kirby on Thor, I thought, that went well together, but you put him with other people and it became lifeless. And I don't know.
I always think of myself as an inker who pencils, because I started as an inker. I love inking. Inking's my thing. So I'm not a penciler first. I just know that when I get something, and having done in this on a monthly schedule, you're put in a terrible position a lot of times by forces that aren't your own. So I've always had, when I became a penciler, I'm very, very lenient on an inker, and I try to not eat their time. And I try to give them lots of stuff to explore their own artistic sensibility. And I've worked with very different, very organic people, to John Beatty, who's very, very detailed. And you just let them be themselves. I don't go into it. I was lucky when I did Sandman. I had all these different inkers. And I had a blast with all of them. I have no definitive look in my head for myself, so I don't expect it. But then I'm like I said, I'm more inker-centric. And much more into them. I think when I pencil, I'm neurotic, and I think people actually care about every detail. They don't. It's this main thing they're looking at, and you want to, you want to make sure the writer's point gets across, not their point. And I'm big on writers. I'm very big on what they do. I am not, if anything, that's the main thing. So I extend that to inkers as well. I want them to be involved and not feel they have to machine everything and replicate. Do whatever. I mean, something good will happen.
I like it. Baran, thank you for joining us. This is great.
Very good.
Adorable cat.
He does like
amazing.
I have to take off, so I'm gonna log out.
Josh, thanks a lot. Looking forward to your story. What issue is your black and white in? Is it
I
the
think
first
it's
issue?
4. No,
Issue 4.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. It might be 3 or 4, but I think it's 4.
Okay, buddy. And then let's do a solo soon.
Yeah, for
Is
sure,
it a
for sure.
limited series now, or is it going to be the backup? Of
I think it's 6. I don't remember, but
But it's a standalone. It's not a backup feature, Jill. It's a
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
no, it's a regular. It's a regular. book.
I think it's like 6 issues.
Yeah, I
and,
think so too.
and I think like 3 stories per issue, something like that.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
Maybe
right,
more.
yeah. All right,
Yeah.
I gotta see you guys later.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Josh.
guys.
Thanks a lot for hanging out.
Thank you.
Guys, we can wrap up. I think we've answered all the questions, but really excited for the new stuff. Jill, you want to tell us what you got coming up? If you can.
I have a story in Neil Gaiman's Norse Gods that Dark Horse is putting out. So I have a full issue. It's Freya's Unusual Wedding, and I also have a story in this Morrison Hotel story that Leah Moore wrote for Rance Hosley's got I forget the name of the comic company. They're doing this like anthology about Jim Morrison. So I've got something in that, and then I've been working on new Scary Godmother book, and also putting together a pitch to try and pitch more Scary Godmother TV.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I have a lot of things going on, and then something coming up that I can't talk about until I say yes to it. So.
Okay, good deal. Good to hear.
It's always a good idea.
Chip, what do you got coming up?
I'm just trying to survive, man.
I know you got a million things going, like you said.
Yeah. Daredevil. That's the main one. Daredevil and Stillwater.
A little
book called Daredevil, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got like 9 writing projects that haven't been announced, so it's starting to drive me a little crazy.
How about it, Kel?
God. Some stuff with Joe Hill.
Great.
Some stuff with Jeff Johns. Some stuff with Jeff Lemire. The thing I'm looking forward to a lot is the thing with Matt Wagner. And that's a big thing. But
fantastic.
Very big things, Kelly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, it's a little here and a little there. It starts accumulating where you always say, I will do it, but I'm busy. And then finally it's time, you know? And I try to cheat by doing a cover for their books or something, but it's the thing with Matt should be really a lot of fun. It's a big thing for that Matt came up with, and I've loved it since he told me. So finally there's time to do that. Wonderful.
That's awesome. Well, again, all of you, including Josh, who left, and I'll remind him, please come back and let's do some solos on Word Balloon when you guys are ready to talk.
Sure.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much for doing this. Oberon, thank you.
Yeah.
For hanging out.
Hey, Oberon.
Mm-hmm.
He seems
so cute.
He's content.
He's adorable, but I mean, this
Oberon.
isn't at all.
What's that?
Oberon.
Well, it's a skill.
I've had a cat that's been like, I have 2 cats. One's my cat, and he's my familiar. I've never had a cat that's like, he's more into doing stuff, and he likes, you know, he's got his routine. He'll go start knocking things over on the other side of my room because he wants cuddle.
Yeah.
It's when I sit here at the table because that means I'm not doing something he can watch, and I'll be sitting here for hours and hours on end, and it's very upsetting to him, to his routine, which is excuse me, human.
Understood. No, that's great. Guys, thank you very much. This is a great conversation. I'm glad that we've got these separate islands so we can go a little over.
Glad to see Jill again. Glad to meet Chip this way.
Same here.
Very nice thing.
It's everybody.
Indeed. Well, that's the one byproduct of COVID that we what is that? Are you drinking fire water?
It's birch sap water. Like
lovely.
From Moscow.
They sell it. Actually, there's a place in Wisconsin that sells birch sap water and maple sap water. And yes, I have an addiction problem.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
The first time was in Moscow because I remember like taking a sip of that and I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!"
Yes, it was. And they sold it in a jar like that was 5
giant.
I have pictures of us like drinking from this giant.
I'm glad you kept up with it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Be well, and we'll talk. We'll talk soon. And I'm sure if jump on the Art of the Bat panel featuring Jason Fabik and David Finch, who are selling some incredible art. Take advantage of the store, everybody. MainframeComicCon.com. We've got a lot of great prints and autographed comics and things that they're selling. And I will talk to you at the top of the next hour as we do the Batman Catwoman panel with Tom King, Clay Mann, and Mitch Gerrits. But thanks, everybody, for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, see you later. Bye.
Black Friday comic book deals are now available at MainframeComicCon.com. Like this David Finch exclusive variant starting at only $30. Limited edition prints, autographed and shipped to you from only $45. Mail-in signatures with CGC grading available for your personal comic book collection. And impossible to find comic book posters all signed by the top names at DC. This is a limited time offer, so head on over to MainframeComicCon.com and pick up yours today.